for what De Jong didn't do in the game, Gavi, I mean, he was great. I mean, other than, I know we're going to get to Abde at some point here because, I mean, that'll probably happen next. So other than Abde, who was the actual man of the match, I mean, Gavi to me was Barcelona's most influential player. I mean, he was just good. I mean, what was most impressive about what Gavi did, other than I think people are saying that Barca is at a point, especially against Bayern, when Thomas Mueller's quotes also went viral. Barcelona literally just need desire. They need fight. They need someone to want to win the game. And Gavi is showing his personality that of all the Barcelona players, there is no doubt that 17-year-old kid wants to win or wants to get a result, or at least showing that he wants to get a result. Even if it's not on the inside, he's showing you on the outside how much he wants to get a result today. And so like the yellow card he
doesn't look outwardly frustrated. Where I think
he does. I mean, he looks like a 17-year-old kid mad that he can't win a game. And you almost want more of that. Instead of like, boo-hoo, we lost the game. You want, hey, this game is still possible. I'm mad that we're losing, or I'm mad that we conceded.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever kind of if we want to say like his ire or his frustration is kind of in a more proactive, aggressive way where, he wants to be a difference maker. He's frustrated with what is happening and wants to set it right. Whereas, it's not any one individual that necessarily sticks out, but you see whenever, either when there's a close call or when Barca concede, and, invariably the camera will pan to various players in the aftermath of the goal. And you see not just upset, but some guys, like, you see a little bit of kind of crestfallen, and it's a certain level of almost existential frustration. It's not frustrated with the situation. It's just frustration is becoming almost like a state of being for some of these guys. Yeah. And, we talk about some of the young guys, and I think in addition to their talent, their youth and their technical skill and everything else, I think what the young guys bring a lot of is they're not conditioned. I don't even want to say conditioned, but their experiences haven't conditioned them to feel that certain frustration. Like, we've talked about this with Barca for, I think we've talked about it probably a few times now when there's been frustrating results, or, particularly kind of, just gut punch results, kind of the way it happened against Osasuna. There, particularly with some of the old guard, or just like the not young guys, the non-teenagers, there is a little bit of a, oh no, here we go again sense whenever things start going wrong, that seems to feed on itself and then perpetuates either a lack of activity and a lack of aggression, because you're either trying to be overly cautious to prevent making a mistake, and in trying to avoid making mistakes, you avoid even trying to do anything proactive and positive, or it's just a sense that you almost, when things go wrong, you're expecting them to snowball, and it's almost these guys, in some cases, I feel like they almost manifest that, you know what I mean? Like they feel like they get punched in the stomach, and then they're like, oh no, there's probably another shot to the head coming, and invariably it comes.
And I think that is like the useful exuberance that you're right. Piqué's comments post game, like, he didn't really blame the youngsters, but he said, hey, we've got all these young players, almost as this out. But I think what he means is that there might be frustration for him in the locker room because, Gavi, he's 17 years old. He's only played in, 100 games in his whole life or something, you know what I mean? Or 500 games in his whole life. That this game that's happening in that moment right in front of his face is his entire world. And for Piqué, who every time something goes wrong is an accumulation of all the experiences, all the good moments, all the bad moments, and it's all happening, in that moment. Now, players who can block that out, sure, but you're right. I think the floodgates have opened, and they have for a long time. That Barcelona's older guard, they feel the accumulation of all that frustration all at the same time. That's why they're always speaking about, the older experienced players are always speaking about post game is a collection of results, a collection of whether the team is on an up or a down. And I find that it's telling, because when the younger players speak about a game, they speak about that game in that game, in that moment. And I think, again, it's, yes, that inexperience is how you finish it's how you don't finish top four, because that inexperience means you don't know how to pace yourself. You don't understand like the season's a marathon. But right now, Barcelona desperately need players to be focused right now in the here and now on that moment in that game. But even tactically, I want to go all the way back to Gavi. And the worrying thing, I guess, for not even for Barcelona, but for Frenkie de Jong, it's actually a good thing, I guess, for Kool-Aid, that the way that Gavi is that left interior today defended on the left interior in support of Umtiti, who is not prepared to start that match, as well as Abde, who is not necessarily a great defender, if you will, or at least he's raw in experience. And Gavi somehow solidified that left side in that first half in particular, and, defending horizontally, sideline to sideline. And then offensively, when Barcelona would get the ball, he basically set up in the same way that Pedri actually does, as almost a double pivot with Busquets, because De Jong was farther up the field. And so he winds up bringing the ball up very vertically, which is how he also got the assist, because he was looking more in this game for those vertical balls. And you could see how much better he is moving from that left wing back to that left interior spot. And with what he did today in that game, that is exactly what Kool-Aid wants Frenkie de Jong to be. That's exactly what it is. And so the new question I bring up is that, can Pedri and Gavi coexist? I mean, I guess they can. If Pedri is playing as that high interior, if Xavi's going to play a 3-4-3 and there's two high interiors and two pivots, then Gavi could stay in as a pivot and Nico could be the other high right interior if he can figure out how to get into the other opposing box sometimes. And then Pedri's on the other side. And then we have a real question about Frenkie de Jong in that rotation. And that's, again, a good problem to have. And I think Xavi is still very much tinkering. But you could clearly tell that in today's experiment, at least, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but in today's game, Xavi was the beneficiary of today's experiment. And I think today's experiment, though, was a lot about the fact that Frenkie de Jong was asked to play at the 10 because Luke de Jong is the 6th or 7th on the depth chart, because you and I, Emile, support, I called it on the match review, injury FC. That's what this club is. Like, I know that this team should have got the win today, 2-1, but also this team is in no way the team. And I mean, Frenkie de Jong is being misplayed because of Luke de Jong.
Yeah, no, it's true, because we talk about the need for goals all the time. Like, I feel like, whenever we, talk in the aftermath of a match, or whenever we're just doing a broad state of the club on the pitch thing. And I'm looking at the lineup and the formation that played today. And yeah, I mean, you have to find goals somewhere. And if Luke de Jong, who, like you said, is not the first choice, not the second choice, not the third choice, I mean, we can put him wherever we want on the pecking order.
Keep going. Keep going. Now I'm thinking about Aguero and Braithwaite. Keep going.
Oh yeah, no, I would rather have Braithwaite.
Yeah, of course.
And so, I mean, in that sense, you almost have to hide your striker, which is, a really unenviable place to find yourself. So yeah, you end up having to play guys out of position and try sort of kind of deviate from maybe the tactical plan that you would like to be running if you had a striker that you could trust and actually pose the legitimate threat up front. And so I think you're right. I mean, in the sense, Luke de Jong is in there. He's the nominal striker, but he's not attracting attention. He's not attracting attention from multiple players. Definitely. I mean, maybe he's getting one person's attention, but, and otherwise you have to throw more resources at the very least posing a threat to the opposing defense. And those resources have to come from, like you said, the middle of midfield and sort of further back in midfield. And yeah, like you said, I think today it came at the expense of Frenkie de Jong.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then late on in that game, the Luke de Jong question kind of comes up that, I mean, if I was manager, again, Xavi knows a lot more than me. He's still experimenting. He's still tinkering. I think defending, he was hoping that Luke de Jong's big body was important, because I think, as I don't want to overthink it, Barcelona were susceptible on set pieces. So having a big body like Luke de Jong in their late game situations, I understand the thinking. But I mean, I definitely would have shifted Dembele, who had an awful game, his worst game of the year by far, easily. Dembele was not good in this game. I would have shifted Dembele to the middle and brought on Demir or Ferran Jukic. If you're going to bring him in, then bring him in even 10 minutes earlier. Let him play it out just to keep that width, and then just put Dembele up through the middle. Because when Coutinho came on the field, this is a big issue. Mingueza replaces Nico to help with the buildup, which it did. Actually, I think the minute Mingueza came on, they had their best buildup, if you will. It winds up leaving to Busquets, and then Busquets winds up starting what really was a counterattack. And so Mingueza did, offensively at least, with that buildup, help him get out of pressure. But the combination of Umtiti and Mingueza on the left side also unbalanced that defense. So when they were under pressure, Barca had no way to clear, and clearances are such a major issue. I mean, we don't even say that or talk about that, but this team never properly clears anymore. And that has to do with building out of the back. And they haven't now done that for 2 or 3 years. And, Mingueza wasn't the answer to that. And I think one of the other big reasons for that too, is you want to talk about hold up play and speed on the wings and getting yourself out of trouble. I mean, Coutinho came on the field, and no offense to Coutinho, but he was the main release valve up top when Luke de Jong came into the box to help defend. And Coutinho has, for all that Coutinho can do, holding the ball up is not what Coutinho does or can do, especially in the middle of the field. So basically, Barca's only release valve, truly, when they bypassed and didn't look for Coutinho after he gave it away twice, was to look up the wings. And if you think your only clearance option is to get that small piece of space for Dembele, or when Abde switched, or when Ferran Zukla came in, that if your only clearance option is to try to thread the needle between the defender and the far touchline to get it to your winger, and that's your one shot. I mean, you can see that it didn't work out. And so Coutinho and Mingueza, those substitutes, and leaving Luke on in the way they did with that formation. Again, Xavi's experiment, Xavi's tinkering. I have to take my advice and say, be patient. And I know people were getting on me because on the earlier show this week, earlier in the week, Levon had said that, in the second show this week, Levon had said that, he just doesn't see the team getting any better. I mean, I don't think the team is getting any healthier. If anything, now this game, there's no Jordi Alba and no Memphis. So they're actually getting less healthy every match that goes by. You're going farther and farther down the depth chart. And so we're getting to a point when I look at Mingueza, Umtiti, and it's sad that I had to put Mingueza in here, but at the moment, the form he's in, Mingueza, Umtiti, Luke de Jong, Coutinho, and I say, they're all gone over the summer. Maybe Mingueza stays because of his contract, but as far as being regular members of rotation and being players that Xavi's going to trust to close out a game, like, I'm not going to break my brain for players that won't be around in 6 months. You know what I mean? Like, it's just exactly this late game thing is happening, but how much of that do you put on the players and the personnel he has to work with? And how much of it do you have that, not only does Xavi make the decision, it should be accountable for the decision, but to win a game at the end like that, you need, again, to have that fight. And it seems like no matter who the manager is, Barca also lose that fight. So are we saying it's personnel, or are we saying it's just a lack of fight based on the manager? Or is it even,
I don't think it's on the man. I mean, at this point, I feel like the sample size is small, and at the very least, sort of in the meat of the games, even though Barca haven't looked, they haven't looked brilliant. They haven't been free scoring or, some sort of imperious genius team, but they've looked better. And even when they're not playing particularly well, there's been a greater resemblance to Barca teams past, and you can get kind of faint whiffs of what the intention is and what the vision is in the plan.